Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. It is Thursday, so we are talking Turner syndrome. And this week, I actually want to take the time to more in-depthly respond to a question I got during my live stream a couple weeks ago. There was one question I got that said, are you able to adopt with having Turner syndrome? Like, is there anything that would stop you from adopting? And I think they were specifically thinking of, like, do adoption agencies have an issue with it? Are they going to look down on it? Are they going to think you're not able to be a mom because of it? And I kind of feel like there's two different questions in there. So there's that question that is asking, do adoption agencies or foster care agencies or the county, if you're going straight through the county for foster care, do they care that you have Turner syndrome? Like, do they look at you any differently because you have it? And to that answer, I'd say pretty consistently, no. There is nothing that has been anything but welcoming and understanding, and kind of just more wanting to make sure they're taking care of us and addressing the infertility along with it more than anything, if it's affected the process at all. There's nothing that they're thinking I'm not going to be able to do. There's nothing that they've ever said as far as it making me incapable or disqualifying us in any way. So I wanted to make that really clear. And with so many stories of girls with Turners adopting, I think that's pretty common, that's the normal experience, that there's not many agencies that are going to really think twice about it. Besides the infertility side, which I actually think is really smart and really helpful, and if I ever actually do go through counseling with them through that, I think it could be really beneficial to address those things. So that being said, I feel like there's a second question of, are you able to be a mom with Turner syndrome? And maybe kind of just thinking about what would it look like to be a mom and have Turner syndrome, and does Turner syndrome affect how you would be a mom? Obviously there's the physical side of it where you're not going to be able to get pregnant more than likely, and even the pregnancies that are assisted, like with IVF with egg donation or even embryo adoption, they're going to watch you super closely, so it's not going to be a normal pregnancy. You will still be high risk, and it still won't be, I don't want to say it won't be smooth sailing, because it could be a totally fine, totally healthy pregnancy, and I have heard those stories. But that's not going to take away from the fact that they don't know what's going to happen with you, so they're going to be watching you super closely either way. And you would need to get cleared for it. So in that sense, there is that complication that it adds, where becoming a mom doesn't look the same for you. It looks like a lot of other different things that you have to consider, and it looks like a much different process, a process that's much more out of your normal experience, and I feel like is definitely a very unique experience, and is kind of just its own thing. It's not going to be like, oh, you're pregnant, yay! You're not going to have that moment. It's going to feel much more like going through the paces with something. It's going to feel much more like not as many people around you realize what's going on or how real it's becoming sometimes. That's not going to be every case, but it is definitely going to be less so than with a pregnancy. It takes later in the process for it to become more real to people than a pregnancy does. So it's different, it's unique, it's its own experience, but nothing about having Turner syndrome innately makes you incapable of being a mom in any way, in any kind of facet or symptom that Turner syndrome brings on. None of that ever influences you not being able to be a mom or disqualifies you from being able to mother and take care of a child. It changes the way that happens for you, but it doesn't mean it can't. And I'd say now, our time period we're living in, that's more so the case than ever before. I kind of compare what we're going through with the time periods where women didn't know why they weren't getting pregnant, women didn't have all of the options that we do. They couldn't just go to a doctor and say, can we do IVF? Can we do egg donation? Like, those things haven't actually existed that long. Those options weren't even as detailed and available and understood when my mom was pregnant with me and being told I wouldn't be able to have kids, as they are now when I'm actually attempting to start a family. She couldn't have even dreamed of all of the options I have now, and she has told me that, and she feels very, very lucky and very grateful that I have all of the options that I do. But I think it's easy to take for granted how new this stuff is, and not that long ago women didn't even really find out what was going on. They didn't know why things were going wrong with having kids, whether it was not getting pregnant or whether it was aborting the pregnancy and dealing with that. There is so much at our fingertips now. Nothing is impossible in the realm of having a family. There are so many different options, and I think that's really fun to embrace. It can be overwhelming when you're researching, but it is really fun to embrace and look at and feel grateful for. And then there's just the general, does Turner syndrome disqualify you from stuff? Like, is there anything it says you can't do just based on the diagnosis? And I'm gonna say no to that also. There is nothing about the diagnosis of Turner syndrome that really actually decides much. It makes certain things more likely. It makes certain things more likely to be a struggle. It means you'll have certain things you have to face more guaranteed than if you didn't have Turner syndrome. But nothing is an absolute with Turner syndrome just based off of the diagnosis. And I know I've talked about this in context with the life expectancy, because that's a huge question when you're talking about a mom who's pregnant with a girl with Turner syndrome. It is not a death sentence just getting that diagnosis. That is not the end of the story, and that's not all you need to know. And I think that applies to being a mom too. It is not the end of the story to say, oh, well, I have Turner syndrome, so I can't have kids. Or, oh, I have Turner syndrome and I have all of these complications, they're gonna look at me funny. Or they're gonna think I'm not gonna be able to. Or I'm gonna have these struggles. That doesn't have to mean you don't try, or that doesn't have to mean it's decided for you. If, despite the health struggles, you feel able to adopt, that's great. And that's totally an individual thing to figure out. Now, it really is individual. I don't know everybody's story. I don't know what struggles you face, but as a general rule of thumb, having the diagnosis of Turner syndrome doesn't rule you out of anything. That diagnosis is not the end of the story. And there's a lot more detail you have to figure out before anything is actually determined. That's why I got my numbers. That's why I looked into what my body, not another girl with Turner syndrome's body, but what my body was doing, so that I could know how I was working and what my situation was. So no, they don't look at you weird. They don't think you're any different. They see a lot of cases where couples are doing it starting from the foundation of they can't have their own. So it is definitely not an issue, and it does not mean it's a no. It definitely will look different. Being a mom, several levels of what being a mom looks like will look different for you. I mean, I'm just picturing trying to tell my son that's 6 foot tall what to do. But we'll get there when we get there. I just really wanted to make the point with today's video that it is not the end of the story for being able to have kids. There are so many options, and there's so many wonderful, understanding agencies and just healthcare workers that really have a passion for helping couples have a family, for helping people become parents, because they know there are kids that need it. I have heard wonderful stories about single people becoming parents. It is not the end of the story, and I really just want to encourage you with that. It is definitely not the end of the story, and you can be a mom. So that is my little rant for today. I hope you enjoyed this. If you have your own thoughts about this, I would love to hear it in the comments below. Let me know what you think. And if you are a mom and you have Turner syndrome, let me know your experiences. Do you feel like it's different from those around you outside of the pregnancy part? Because we know that is most likely going to be different, but there are a lot of aspects about being a mom to think about. Let me know your experiences. Let me know your thoughts. If you have any other questions, leave them in the comments below as well. If you enjoyed this, give it a thumbs up and share it with everybody. Make sure you are subscribed and have notifications on, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye!